Welcome to Freed on Business. He grew up in South Florida, has been in business here since the early 90s, and has closed over $1 billion in deals. He's seen it all. He always has an opinion, and he's always ready to share it. Informed, entertaining, and connected, he has his finger on the pulse of South Florida's business community. He's Jim Freed, and this is Freed on Business.
Oh boy, do we have a great show for everybody today. We're joined by my good friend Regan Marock. Nelson Barbosa is with us, and we've got Phil Roy. We're going to talk about what to do before, during, and after a hurricane to protect yourself, your assets, your family, your property, your condo, everything. So stick with us. We'll also be joined by Alan Garfinkel during the show. He's our insurance expert. Boy, this is going to be great. And wow, is it on point with what's threatening the Gulf right now. So stick with us. We'll be right back with Phil, Regan, and the rest of the team talking about how to protect yourself in a hurricane. Stick with us. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Of course, you all know this is South Florida's longest running business talk show. And I want to thank our sponsors, as always, Warren Henry Automotive. And there's a great link in here today with Warren Henry because Phil just helped them complete their new showroom up on Biscayne at 151st Street. And make sure you go up there to meet Larry and the team. My good friend May Stark on their service line. She's got great specials. It's clean. It's beautiful. It's safe. Go up there. And when you're looking to buy or lease a car, you want to get every advantage that you can. That's why you have to check out Warren Henry. Land Rover, Range Rover, Infiniti, and Jaguar. Up in Gainesville, they sell Audi. Down in the Keys, they sell them all. And what do they all have in common? Well, they all have the fact that they're great cars, and they all come with the tremendous Warren Henry advantage. You get a complimentary service loaner, dynamic wheel protection, key replacement, a guaranteed purchase offer, and my favorite, the 72-hour guarantee. If you don't like your car in 3 days, you can return it. So join me, my mom, and my beautiful wife, Vivian. Honey, I love you. We're all members of the Warren Henry family. You should be too. Always the best service, always the best price, always Warren Henry. Wow, we've got a whole full house here. I want to get right to it. So I'm just going to say, if you need cash out on your mortgage, if you want to pull money out, if you need to lower your rate, give me a call. I'm doing it for all my friends. 305-773-6300. People from all across the country are calling me. They're buying in Florida. I can help them get their loan in Florida for their home. Give me a call at 305-773-6300. And now more on hurricane preparedness and survival with the team.
Welcome back to Freed on Business. Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube at Jim Freed or at Freed on Business, and on Instagram at Jim Freed1. Now, back to your host, Jim Freed.
We've got a great show, a bunch of experts. I'm not one of them, so we're going to get right to it. I want to introduce Regan Marock. He's the head of the Kent Securities Task Force for Hurricane Prep. For condo associations and other commercial buildings. He's got his partner, Nelson Barbosa, on. We have been introduced to Phil Roy. Phil is a forensic construction and development consultant. Boy, you don't know what that is, but you will soon. And of course, Alan Garfinkel, our insurance expert here for both construction defect and post-hurricane recovery. Welcome to the show, Regan. I'm going to let you take the lead. Tell me about your task force and what you and Nelson do and how you work with Phil and Alan.
Jim, thank you as always. It's a pleasure to be on your show. Just a quick overview of the Kent Task Force. The Kent Task Force was created back in May to assist associations with reopening or closing their amenities. Additionally, with assisting with advanced security. And now, obviously, with hurricane season, our services have expanded. The Kent Task Force is through Kent Security Services, a 38-year-old national private security company with offices in Florida, New York, Washington, D.C., Seattle, and Portland. Some of the clients, the state of Florida, the city of Miami, FP&L, which is very specific to what we're discussing today, and a bunch of condo buildings across the country. So thank you again for having us.
It's our pleasure, and your relationship for FPL must come in handy occasionally.
Well, you got to speak to upstairs about that, but I'm sure it does.
Now, Phil, tell me a little bit about what you do, because it's really exceptional, and actually you've touched Warren Henry.
Absolutely, Jim. First, thank you for the opportunity to be on your show. And then secondly, more importantly, I want to just put some thoughts out for the folks that are in the harm's way of this massive storm that is headed toward the Texas and Louisiana coast. Hurricane preparedness. I was on a phone with a client who's out there, and you go through the checklist. So our thoughts and prayers out to those in harm's way right now, and pray for a storm that will weaken before it hits them.
All right. One of the things I want to do is go over that checklist during the show, Phil.
Absolutely. DPA is part of the Socotec Videris family. We're forensic engineering, construction specialist, testing labs, all types of engineering expertise on our team. I do mainly the forensic work around commercial construction projects. And we also do a lot of work around hurricanes, post-hurricane damage, but also in preparation of hurricanes. So we'll get into more of that detail in the show as you indicated, but that's what we do. We do the assessments to make sure that if you do get caught in harm's way, that you're prepared for it.
Okay, and then I know Alan Garfinkel's been having a little problem with his phone. He's on the road today. Alan, are you able to hear us?
Well, Jim, thank you very much for having me on the show. Sorry we had a little technical difficulty. We've been monitoring the storms around the country, both in terms of the wildfires and the hurricane that's pending down the southwestern part of the country. Thank you so much for having me on the show with two nationally renowned guys as well. Regan and Phil, I've known them and known of their reputation for years and years. My law firm and I particularly have been doing this type of disaster recovery, obtaining insurance recovery benefits for over 30 years. I've been designated a super lawyer on insurance coverage. I'm an AB-rated lawyer, which is the highest national ranking. And really all I've done in terms of my career is devoted myself to helping community associations throughout the country in recovering, from the insurance company, whether it's from construction defect or more specifically from disaster. We've really helped out, tens of thousands of folks throughout the years. So thank you so much for allowing me to be on the show and kind of give my perspective of what to expect before, during, and after a storm as a result of the insurance contracts that folks have signed.
Thank you so much, Alan, for being here. Your insights are going to be critical because a lot of the creative financing that goes on in this sector comes from the insurance policy. Now, Regan, I wanted to go back to you. You've created a task force. I know that Nelson's on it. Let's talk about Nelson's role there. He's obviously well certified given the background he's using today.
Yes. Absolutely. Obviously, we're very proud to have Nelson as part of the task force. Nelson is also the director of training and compliance for Kent Services. Nelson, if you want to share a little bit about your background, I'm always floored by his history and everything he's done for this country.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on your show, Jim, and thank you, Regan. Again, this is Nelson Barbosa. I'm the director of training and compliance for Penn Security, has been doing so for the last 2 years. Actually, August 1st, I made 2 years with the company. Prior to that, I used to teach criminal justice. I'm a retired FBI agent, 24 years of service. I also did 5 years with the Drug Enforcement Administration. Had a long history of military career as well. Got 3 honorable discharges, 1 from the Marine Corps and 2 from the Army and Army National Guard. So that's kind of my background. I travel all over, working security matters and everything else involving U.S. citizens and U.S. Entities throughout Latin America. So I kind of had a long career, and I've been able to, out of at least 2 or 3 different hurricanes, especially Hurricane Andrew. So I bring in, I think, as much knowledge as I can. Thank you.
It's our pleasure. Now, Regan, Nelson can come and he can train a team, but let's start with the beginning. What should somebody start with at the beginning? How can you and Phil and Nelson and Alan come in at the beginning and help people?
Right. That's a great question, Jim. As I wrote about on LinkedIn earlier today, this is not like hurricane seasons of past. Obviously, with COVID-19 and civil unrest, we have to take a different look and derive the plan that we've used in years past to make sure that we're doing absolutely everything for ourselves and for our physical assets. And I'm so glad that Alan is on the phone from the insurance perspective of getting the creative funding, because some of the stuff we talk about does require funding. From a 30,000 foot level, something that Kent Services and the task force is looking for associations and clients to do in the pre-stages and part of the pre-assessment, along with Phil, is to sign a DSA agreement, disaster service agreement, with Kent Services, which basically provides a commitment to the client that in the event of a hurricane, they're going to get preferred and priority service. They're going to get the guards that they need, and they're going to set the rates up front. And I think Alan will talk about those rates, the cleanup, and how you can get the money from the insurance to pay for such service. On this session, we also intend to speak about, the intricate details of that plan, the client being, understanding of what a security company is and isn't able to do, depending on evacuation orders, and so forth. So we look forward to diving into that a little bit further, along with Phil and Alan.
Okay, so basically what you're saying is the insurance can actually pay for something like that. Alan?
Yeah, thank you very, very much. I've been handling disaster claims in South Florida since Hurricane Andrew back in 1992 and all the storms in between. And the very, very first thing that people are considered thinking of, really there's 3 things that folks think about. Number 1 is, oh my God, my roof is leaking, the windows are out, I got to get some tarps on, or I need to get some security for my building. And then the third thing is, how do I pay for this stuff? Where do I deep in? Do I go into my reserves? Who writes the checks? It's very, very much of a scampering situation. And so what I'm here to do, along with Regan and Phil, who are actually the providers, these are the experts that actually do those things. Phil is there to put the roof back on your head. Regan is there to make sure that the building is secure. The fact is that the reality is that, when windows are broken, when the doors are not there, security can be compromised. And the first thing that, people have to be cognizant of is their personal welfare, their personal safety. And so, I can't tell you how many times I've arrived on scenes where, the building is compromised. And so there are the people. And so I will tell you that, having Regan, pre-certified and pre-vetted and on the speed dial in the event, God forbid, something happens where, the security of the building is compromised, and having Phil available on speed dial after you vet him, making sure that credentials line up, or having someone in place to make sure they can go out there and secure the envelope of the building. Because frankly, under the law, the homeowner, whether it's a community association, a condo, apartment building, a convention center, everybody under the law has a duty to mitigate the damages, meaning you have the responsibility to not let, oh, geez, I have insurance, and so we're just going to let the water continue to pile in. That's the first two things. The third thing is, oh my gosh, maybe I shouldn't make a claim because my insurance rates will go up. I will go into later about why that's a fallacy, but the important thing is to vet out folks that are trusted, vendors beforehand. And I can personally attest for Regan and Phil, who have not just local South Florida reputations, but national reputations. Thanks, Jim.
You're welcome. Regan, why don't we do this? Let's take a quick break. We'll talk about Warren Henry. Phil always likes that. And then we'll come back and you can lead the next phase of the discussion, pivoting off of what Alan just said. Is that going to work?
Perfect.
Awesome. Good. Phil, you better get ready because the next segment's going to belong to you. We'll be right back with more great information that you can unfortunately use immediately if you live on the Gulf Coast right after this. Tremendous. I want to remind everybody that we're South Florida's longest running business talk show, going on 13 years. And I want to thank Warren Henry for being there for most of it. My good friends, Larry, Warren, and Eric over there are tremendous. Phil can attest to that. They used Phil when they had a problem with their construction, and I'm sure they'd give him one heck of a recommendation. Remember, when you go there for service, it's pristine and clean because Phil made it that way. And look for my friend May Stark, who will give you tremendous deals on your service. Remember, when you're looking to buy or lease a car, you want to get every advantage that you can. That's why you have to check out Warren Henry. Land Rover, Range Rover, Infiniti, and Jaguar. Up in Gainesville, they sell Audi. Their Key store, well, they got everything down there. What do they all have in common? Well, they're all great cars, and they all come with the Warren Henry Advantage. And what's the Warren Henry Advantage? Well, you get complimentary service loaner, dynamic wheel protection, key replacement, guaranteed purchase offer, the best value guarantee in the 72-hour exchange. If you don't like your car, you can return it within 3 days. But let me tell you what the most important thing about Warren Henry is. You truly do become a member of their family. They care, and you can feel it. Phil will attest to that. Even if you're one of their contractors, they love you. So join me, my mom, and my beautiful wife, Vivian. We're all members of the Warren Henry family. You should be too. Always the best service, always the best price, always Warren Henry.
This is Becca Carlson from Carlson Integrated. You know, a lot of our clients find that they can do anything, but not really everything. We are always excited to jump in and help. So whether you need another set of hands for a project or even comprehensive marketing management, our team of marketing mavens would love to have a conversation with you to see if we are the right fit. We do everything from logo and design work to email outreach and social media to writing and thought leadership. And here's a fun one. We are now offering our fabulous ebook of top 10 marketing tips on our website for free. So head over to carlsonintegrated.com and grab a copy today. And please always let us know how we can help. My email is Becca, that's BEKAH at carlsonintegrated.com. That's BEKAH at carlsonintegrated.com.
Yes, and she's even nicer than the sound of her voice would imply. That woman's tremendous. She helps a lot of my clients. This week, she started designing some flyers for friends that have leasing projects down here in Miami. She can help you. She's tremendous. She's part of the team. And hey, give me a call if I can help. 305-773-6300. I'm helping lots of friends get residential mortgages. And when you have a disaster like this, I can help you get a bridge loan. So give me a call at 305-773-6300. You know the tagline. When you call me, it's always all about you.
Welcome back to Freedom Business. Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube at Jim Freed or at Freed on Business, and on Instagram at Jim Freed1. Now, back to your host, Jim Freed.
All right, we're back, and we've got Regan Marock, we've got Phil Roy, we've got Alan Garfinkel, we've got Nelson Barbosa. If you're having a hurricane, these are the guys to know. And as we learned in the first segment, you better know them up front and before the storm comes, because their phone's going to start ringing as soon as the warnings go up. Regan, back to you. What's the next thing we need to do? We've now got our plan set. Alan's talking to us about the pre-insurance thing. What's next?
Okay, so yes, I think as you mentioned, the first steps is to speak to Alan and get your insurance policy reviewed. Then sign agreements with a DSA, disaster service agreement with Kent Services, and then obviously have a company like Phil. I think as you said prior to the break, we should allow Phil to talk about his prior assessment, and then we can talk about post. But from the management side, putting on my management hat, there are just a couple tidbits that I would want to add in that are part of the usual hurricane plan, which, as you know, is making sure that you have all the accurate resident information of your building, contact information. You have hard copy printouts of all pertinent information. You make sure that you have all your stuff backed up to the iCloud. Power could go out. You might not have access to things. So those are a couple things. But as you said, I think we should hand it over to Phil and allow him to speak about his pre-assessment.
Phil, help me understand what people should be doing before the warnings go up.
All right. So, and Alan really touched on it, is, owners are required to make sure that they minimize the level of damage that could potentially hit their assets. The pre-assessment, making sure that you document the precondition of your physical asset is critically important. Yeah. It tells the story. It's able to tell the story afterwards of, hey, this is what it was, and here it is now. I was involved in the USVI on the last two Cat 5 hurricanes. One of the big lessons learned out of that was making sure that the pre-assessment of their properties, my client AIG, had it done. And doing the post-hurricane damage, the story's a lot easier to tell. So making sure that your asset is documented, you've got the first part of the story told, and then looking at that checklist, because every building is different. There's no two buildings really the same when it comes to ingress and egress, but making sure that you've captured those areas where water infiltration, and water is the most damaging part. Wind is bad, obviously, but water infiltration is where it all happens. So making sure that those penetrable areas are taken care of. So you do that in a whole bunch of different ways. It's a hard surface cover, plywood. It's automatic by the hurricane shutters. There's a lot of different things that you can apply to certain areas of your building to minimize the damage.
Phil,
Jim, can I insert?
Sir.
Look, what Phil just said, perhaps right now, is the most important thing. It's perhaps more important in terms of a pre-disaster situation. He hit the nail on the head. The fact is that on every single situation, when there's damage after the storm, in every situation, how on earth does the insurance company have an idea what was there before and what was there after? And so I will tell you, the insurance companies give themselves the benefit of the doubt every single time. And by having a relationship with someone like Phil and Kent Security, but Phil will go out there and do a pre-assessment for free. He'll go out there and be able to say, hey, look, this is what the roof is like. This is where it is right now. And it's like setting kind of a baseline. This is where we are as of August 25th or 2020, and if a storm hits like any of the storms that hit in October or November or September over the years, hurricane season goes through November, and we've had some gigantic storms. And in every single situation, every single time, the insurance company either blames one, excessive wear and tear, and so it's your fault and you pay for it because you didn't properly maintain, or B, the damage was there beforehand. And if you allow Phil to go out there and do a pre-assessment and kind of give a baseline of where the roof is, where the envelope is, where the structure for wind-driven rains are, that's really, really critical, because then it's not even up to dispute, because Phil sends his people up on the roof. He documents everything. He documents the windows. He documents if there's any cracks in the building. He documents the conditions of the balconies. And so getting these relationships with like tree removers, financiers, and call up your insurance agent right now. Make sure, because once there's a storm heading your way, it's on lockdown. Make sure you have the coverage that you believe that you have. Make sure you have the deductible that you believe that you think you have, rather than being surprised. And then get really trusted contractors that you can call on speed dial. God forbid, your building or your commercial structure or your home gets nailed. That's what you got to do. Because frankly, if you have those folks on speed dial now and you have a relationship with now, that's what Kent Security was talking about. If you have these relationships now, look, every single year, I don't like to pay, for example, for a service contract with my AC company. I don't like it. I don't like having to pay the extra money. I don't like it. But the fact is that when my AC blows out, I want them there, and that gives me priority where I'm first in queue. And so that's what Kent Security is talking about being, having the relationship and vetting the contractors before the shenanigans, before the hooligans come in that want to do all sorts of things. That, oh my gosh, we'll do A, B, and C if we'll put on a blue tarp on. That's why you want to have relationships with national guys like Jim has vetted on his show. It's very, very important that you act now. That's what you do before. That's what really, frankly, the responsibility is of the boards of directors right now. That's your fiduciary duty, to preserve and protect the property.
Yeah, Alan,
so Phil is saying, go ahead, Jim, I'm sorry.
No, it's Phil, actually. You're nailing it down really solidly, because and the synergy between the security side and the pre-assessment side works hand in hand, where you want to be able to look at it and look at those areas from the security side on the hardening side. How do I harden my facility so when it does get damaged, I've got a suspender belt approach to dealing with my property?
Yeah, Phil, you bring up Grant and Alan. I appreciate you talking about the vetting process, because that's so important. What Kent is doing now for our clients that we have DSA agreements with is vetting actual guards. So in the event of a hurricane, we've already kind of vetted and said, hey, do you have the flexibility to go out to a site, stay there, as long as there's not an evacuation order and so forth. This is what we'd be willing to pay you. You'd get great pay. But we're lining everything up, and we're doing that due diligence so that, as you said, when the hurricane comes, we can send people right away, and we know who's going to be reliable to do what needs to be done. Now, it's very important in the pre-assessment, along with when Phil is there, for the folks here at Kent and Nelson and so forth, to really have an understanding with the board of directors, what is the expectation? And we need to speak about when Irma occurred, we all kind of had evacuation plans. I went to Orlando, some people went to Georgia. With COVID, are we going to be as quick to leave our homes as we were before? So if we're going to be staying longer, we need to make sure that the security is hardened. We need to make sure, as per the pre-assessment, that the generator has fuel. with everyone working at home and needing internet and electricity and AC, we want to make sure that the generator is working. We have fuel. And we want to make sure. Nelson, do you want to add a little bit to that, just based on having the guards on site?
I think it's very important that the guards be on site. Also because, don't forget, after the fact, there may even be looters trying to get into your building. So not only you have to be careful with what's going to happen post the hurricane, but then also you got to be aware of the fact that you need someone there from the onset, somebody that can immediately go check on you. Give them as much information as possible about how to get into your apartment if necessary, in the event that you cannot get to the door to open up. There's so many little things that you need security around just to be able to protect you and to be able to make sure that your building is safeguarded at all times.
Yeah, 100%. After Hurricane Irma, when I pulled up, I had been in evacuation. When I pulled up to my apartment, there were two guys. One was a police officer that lived here. Another guy works for the Secret Service. They were both sitting outside with automatic weapons. People forget what it's like right after these storms with the roaming gang.
It's going to happen. If it does happen, you will see them out there. They will try to get whatever they possibly can. That's something you got to prevent from the onset. You cannot wait until it happens, because then it will be too late.
Well, I want to talk more about things that people can do to harden their buildings and more relationships they need to build and more insights into the insurance. We're going to do it right after this. You guys can stick with me. Regan, dude in the control room, take it away. We'll be right back with more great information that unfortunately is extraordinarily timely for our folks and friends in the Gulf. Hi, everybody. When you're looking to buy or lease a car, you want to get every advantage that you can. That's why you have to check out Warren Henry. Land Rover, Range Rover, Infiniti, and Jaguar. Up in Gainesville, they sell Audi. Down in the Keys, they sell them all. What do they all have in common? Well, they come with the Warren Henry advantage. That means complimentary service loaner, dynamic wheel protection, key replacement, guaranteed purchase offer, best value guarantee, and the 72-hour exchange. You can take 3 full days to determine whether or not you love your car. You always will. Oh, they're great guys over there. Phil will tell you what a great team they have over there. Join me, my mom, and my beautiful wife, Vivian, and gosh, dozens and dozens of my friends. We're all members of the Warren Henry family. You should be too. Always the best service, always the best price, always Warren Henry. Kindness. That's why we're all here today on the show. Every single person on this program today has been vetted, and they are kind people. They're good people. Okay, they're people that I've come to know and care about as people because they treat me with respect. And that's what it's really all about here. If you want to be respected when you're looking for a home loan, I've got billions of dollars worth of experience. I'm still doing commercial, but I'm helping people with their home loans because it's just really confusing and difficult right now. I'm helping one friend pull $350,000 cash out. I'm helping another friend get a loan that's at a rate below 3%. Call me if I can help. The time to act is now. I'm also doing commercial bridge loans. Call me. Why? Because when you call me, it's always all about you.
Welcome back to Freed on Business. Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube at Jim Freed or at Freed on Business, and on Instagram at Jim Freed1. Now, back to your host, Jim Freed.
We have an all-star panel for hurricane preparedness, recovery. We've got Alan Garfinkel of the Garfinkel Law Firm. He's recovered hundreds of millions of dollars from insurance companies for post-hurricane recovery work and insurance defect work. We've got Phil Roy, who works hand in hand with people like Alan to make sure you're protected, document your situation beforehand, make sure you get extra excellent service afterwards. And of course, we've got Regan Marock and Nelson Barbosa from Kent Security to make sure that your family is safe and protected in their apartment building, condo, or project after the storm. Regan, back to you. What's next?
Yeah, no, thank you, Jim. Obviously, again, just to reiterate, you want to make sure that you've had your insurance policy evaluated, see if we can get some funds to pay for everything that we're talking about today, having a DSA agreement in place, just communicating a little bit to what Nelson was saying, knowing who's in each of the units of the building and having the appropriate contact information is very important. What's equally as important is making sure that the building management has access keys to every single unit, right? Whether it's for security to help out the 80-year-old lady that's stuck, or whether it's for the water restoration company to come in so that, as Alan was saying, and Phil, it's our fiduciary duty to make sure that we don't let the building get damaged. We want to make sure that the security has quick access into the units so that we can take care of what we need to take care of.
Yeah, I was terrified after my Hurricane Irma when I went up to my apartment and it was all flooded and I just started pulling out the carpet that I was doing the wrong thing. But I wasn't, was I, Alan?
Absolutely not. No, you did the right thing. And, I'm just thinking about the last time, the Gulf was facing down these hurricanes, and people forget, but actually the last time the hurricanes hit down there and in a devastating fashion, and the guys that I'm on the phone were all there, was the devastation that Charlie Jean Francis caused in 2005. And so taking the preparation now of getting the pre-vetting of the vendors is absolutely critical. Having a pre-assessment to get a baseline of what your envelope looks like by a professional, a nationally renowned forensic contractor that can actually distinguish between, what was caused by what was the fault of maintenance, what was the cause of settling, what was the cause by wind-driven rain, what was the cause by the hail, what was caused by tornado. And then what Regan was talking about of the additional complication of COVID. I mean, the fact is that, look, whether in what stage you believe it or not, the fact is that your neighbors, are concerned, are extra concerned, and providers are extra concerned. So that's why it's really, really key to get out in front now. One, make sure you have your insurance in place. One, make sure you don't want to buy additional insurance when the storm is in the sea, because you won't be able to get anything. So call up your agent right now, find out what you have them give you an email and send them your deck sheet, and then interview nationally renowned folks like Regan at Kent Security and Phil with how many people do you know that are forensic construction experts? Get to know those folks now.
Now, Alan, on this call, we've been referring to an insurance policy, but the reason that somebody needs a lawyer to review it and not an insurance agent is because it's really a contract, right?
Yeah, it's really funny because just like folks that aren't doctors, it's illegal to practice medicine if you're not, a licensed, doctor or a nurse practitioner or someone with a license. It's the same way, frankly, with insurance contracts. Those complicated policies, which is a great marketing tool, but it's a contract. And frankly, in the event, God forbid, the insurance company says, your claim, you know what? It just happens to be under the deductible. Or, you know what? All the damage that you have really is because of, you failed to maintain. The fact is that we've all been indoctrinated about being scared about making a quote unquote claim under a policy. And the rules are different, guys, when we're talking about a national disaster. They're not allowed, your insurance, typically if you're, one of the 60,000 community associations just in Florida, and look, there's over 100 million people in the United States that are part of residential community associations. Okay? And typically their biggest expense is the insurance quote unquote policy for wind-driven rains and liability. And the fact is that, Jim, you're exactly right. It's not a policy, it's a contract. And frankly, if there's a dispute, you don't sue under a policy. You have to attach, the quote unquote policy. It's a contract. It's a breach of contract. And so the best way to establish, because what happens is that systematically, large insurance companies have a duty to pay out the most money to their insured, to the insurers. But what happens is they pay out the most money to their shareholders. So getting the security lined up to secure the building, making sure you have the right insurance in place, and having a contractor lined up that specializes in this type of stuff. It's not just a friend of a board member, okay? It's not just, this person that knows somebody. It's someone that has real expertise in these damage disaster claims. It's a whole different niche. And so working with someone that has, decades and years of experience and reputational, risk of being in the industry for 1 decade, 2 decades, 3 decades, that have gone out to these storms, not only in Florida, but across the nation, in Texas, in California, in Ohio, in Louisiana. And so you want to establish relationships with, and that's one of the benefits of this show. Jim has taken the time to vet out folks because it's his reputation at stake.
Thank you. It's true, Alan.
I'd like to jump in just for a second here. One of the things I wanted to make sure that this gets out on the show is one of the things I've seen over my years of doing this is so many of the associations, they have a board, but what they don't have is especially in the hurricane-prone areas, a building management plan that includes a task team, a hurricane task team, that when a hurricane is 400 miles, 500 miles out in the Atlantic and it's approaching, the red flag goes up and the task team is mobilized. And that may be 3 people, 4 people. It may include an associate from David Patil and Associates or from Simpson that says, hey, listen, we'd like you to be part of our team here to help us set up this team that has a communication plan, a pre-communication plan to the residents, a post-communication plan. That team that goes out and calls in the experts to say, okay, a storm is encroaching on us. Is there something else we should be doing right now that's outside of the developed plan? Because like I said, every storm is different, every building is different, and every condition is different. So it's real important that the associations and building owners have a separate task team that really focuses in on the event that's encroaching.
Now, one of the things that I want to do, we're going to take a quick break, and then I want to talk about what I think is something that's a secret that people don't know they can do. That's called what I call a supplemental claim. People think they can only send one. They can only send one claim up, but there's ability to send supplements. Bill, you and Alan specialize in stuff like that. We're going to talk about that right after the break. Mendoza, I don't know what to call him anymore. Mendoza, you're up. Okay, everybody, I'll remind you this is South Florida's longest running business talk show. We're way into our second decade. I want to remind everybody our biggest sponsors, Warren Henry Automotive. But I want to thank Phil and Regan for sponsoring today's show as well. Remember, everybody, Warren Henry Automotive. When you're looking to buy or lease a car, you want to get every advantage that you can. That's why you have to check out Warren Henry. Land Rover, Range Rover, Infiniti, and Jaguar. Up in games, they sell out. He's down in the Keys, they sell them all. What do they have in common? Well, they all come with the Warren Henry advantage. That includes a complimentary service loaner, dynamic wheel protection, key replacement, guaranteed purchase offer, best value guarantee in the 72-hour exchange. They'll give you 3 full days to make sure you fell in love with your car. And let me tell you, you will. Remember to go up to their new store up on 151st and Biscayne. Phil helped build it. And remember to look for my friend May Stark on the service line. She's tremendous, and she's got all kinds of great specials for you. So join me, my mom, all of my friends, and my beautiful wife, Vivian. We're all members of the Warren Henry family. You should be too. Always the best price, always the best service, always Warren Henry.
This is Becca Carlson from Carlson Integrated. You know, a lot of our clients find that they can do anything, but not really everything. We are always excited to jump in and help. So whether you need another set of hands for a project or even comprehensive marketing management, our team of marketing mavens would love to have a conversation with you to see if we are the right fit. We do everything from logo and design work to email outreach and social media to writing and thought leadership. And here's a fun one. We are now offering our fabulous ebook of top 10 marketing tips on our website for free. So head over to carlsonintegrated.com and grab a copy today. And please always let us know how we can help. My email is Becca, that's BEKAH at carlsonintegrated.com. That's BEKAH at carlsonintegrated.com.
He's got the best voice that's not on radio. Always projects such happiness and kindness because that's who she really is. Hey, everybody, give me a call. Jim Freed, 305-773-6300. I help you get financing. I can help you finance your home or your commercial property, doing all kinds of bridge loans, doing all kinds of home financings. Some of the home financings are below 3%. I'm helping guys pull out hundreds of thousands of dollars from their home. The time to act is now. Give me a call at 305-773-6300. Why? Because when you call me, it's always all about you.
Welcome back to Freed on Business. Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube at Jim Freed or at Freed on Business, and on Instagram at Jim Freed1. Now, back to your host, Jim Freed.
Unfortunately, I'm really educated about this because of personal experience. I got whipped by Hurricane Irma. My building's still under reconstruction. Everybody who follows me knows the hell that I've been through all of it. But one of the nuances that I found out was that you could keep going back for more with the insurance company if you had legitimate reasons to keep the claim open. That's not really widely known, is it, Alan?
Yeah, it's really surprising because most people think that, we've been conditioned over billions of dollars of insurance propaganda that, if you collect a check from the insurance company, it's done. It's one check and you're out. But that's just the opposite. Because remember, these contracts, these insurance contracts, the insurance company has an obligation to treat you fairly and in good faith. And the fact is that as probably Phil knows better than anybody, once you start peeling the layers back of the onion of a house, or the onion of a building, an onion of a shopping center, an onion of a church, onion of a shopping mall, you'll see, what the sickness that water causes to buildings, particularly in the South. Heat and water cause mold, they cause fungus, and it really almost looks like a black lung. And so the point that I'm saying about what you're saying is, hey, look, we need a check for the roof. We need a check for emergency protection in terms of just the security for the building. That's covered, for example, under Kent Security. That's covered. All of a sudden, we have to have extra security to secure the outside of the building or the buildings. Some of our, we have communities that have, for example, 30,000 people, buildings upon buildings upon buildings and buildings, and those have to be secured. And so having a relationship with a security company is critical, and that's paid by the insurance company.
Now, Alan, Alan, I want to ask Phil, because we're sort of running out of time. Phil, how do you do a supplemental claim? You do that, I would imagine, pretty regularly, don't you?
So I don't do it on a very regular basis, but every job has some level of it that takes place. But one of the things I wanted to touch on that Alan just did is the first time I met you, Jim, you said, Phil, what do you do? And I said, I peel the onion.
Peel the onion. Oh, when he said that, I knew that was money.
So, but it's an important point because it's not only for hurricane season, although this call is about that. It's at any time when you have an asset, you need to go in and you need to assess for what may be coming. So maybe it's 4 months prior, but you got to go in. So when you do put a claim in, we keep going back to it. Before we put that claim in, we want to be able to have that documentation there because we've peeled the onion back. Let's go in and see where the penetrable parts are. Let's go and look at our power supply, the generator, the doors, all of it. Because when you do put a supplemental claim in, on the other side that we work on, so projects that I've done throughout South Florida, you have damage and then you have supplemental damage that happens either afterwards or during the initial stage of what you're constructing or where you're at. You always have to keep that avenue open and you've always got to be looking at it. So to go back to this is, it may be at 30,000 feet, you look at it and say, I've got this level of damage. But when you start to peel it back, you go, wait a minute. I've got these other areas that got impacted as well. But it wasn't in your optics when you were initially looking at it.
Alan, so now you've gotten backed up by Phil. This happens. People have been conditioned by the insurance companies to do certain things. We've only got a few minutes left. Maybe you could go through some of the fallacies, and then I want to give Phil and Regan and Nelson another shot to follow up. So, Alan, let's make this the close. Let's look overview of everything, and what are some real fine points people need to focus on?
Okay, well, number one, right now, during hurricane season, and during, frankly, just the building maintenance, contact your insurance company, contact your insurance agent, make sure that you have what you in layman's terms, what you think you have. Hey, what's my deductible? What's going to be my out-of-pocket, number one. Number two is understand that in the event of a national emergency, don't be so frozen. Don't be scared. Don't be having alligator arms regarding calling up your insurance agent and making a claim. They've terrified us in terms of, oh my gosh, they're going to drop me. They're going to raise my rates like they would in a car accident. It doesn't happen. It can't happen because the state regulators, in the event of a national or state emergency, they have to apply the same increases, and there will be increases, but it'll apply for folks that make a claim or don't make a claim. That's number one. So it's important to understand that, look, you have a contract in place and they can't discriminate against you whether you make a claim or don't make a claim. But there's going to be many folks that don't make a claim in fear because the insurance company has been successful in conditioning all of us that if we make a claim, our insurance rates are going to go up or we're going to be dropped. Can't happen, in the event of a national disaster, in the event of a hurricane. That's number one. Number two is the most important thing. Jim is doing incredible service, pre-vetting folks, not just recommended by, a property manager that has a relationship. These are folks that have national reputations that, Jim is staking his reputation on. I know of these guys' reputations, and they have national reputations. And you're going to need folks that it's not just, the security and the folks that can put a roof over your head or a blue tarp over your head. It's also the folks that, will remove trees from your entrance. Make those relationships with those folks now. Make those relationships and ensure you have AC. Make sure, like Regan was saying, make sure that there is, propane in the generators to make sure that, that folks have air conditioning. So taking these pre-precaution steps is really critical. And then finally, let me just say that it doesn't hurt to get a checkup on the envelope of the building. And what my understanding is that, what Phil has done in the past nationally is he has provided checkups on where your building is. And so where your building is now. So in the event someone says, hey, look, this was caused by your failure to maintain the property, Phil can say, look, I have evidence. I have pictures. I've done a report. It wasn't like this before the storm. And so therefore it's your responsibility. So having those relationships now, including having a plan to contact your insurance agent and making a claim, and God forbid, understanding you have something in your budget to pay for your deductible. Okay. And that's where Jim can come in terms of providing, a line of credit or a bridge loan or something to, if your line of credit is if your deductible is $250,000, what is it? Find out what your deductible is now and make sure, everybody wants the cheapest rate of coverage, but what is your tolerance? What is your association? What is your apartment building? What is your church's tolerance to pay out of pocket in the event of a storm? Make that decision and make that call now. And you can make for a few dollars more. It'd be surprising to drop your deductible from $250,000 to $100,000 or whatever your pain tolerance is for your community, your apartment building, your church or shopping center or convention center. Have an understanding of what you're going to have to pay out of pocket, and then have those funds lined up. That's where Jim can help. So, Jim, I want to thank you very, very much. And Regan and I have put on seminars across the country. Actually, I know in Florida to other community associations. And so, thank you very much for allowing us to speak. It's certainly my privilege and honor to present with folks like Phil and Regan. So, thank you very, very much, Jim.
It's my absolute pleasure, Alan. You're always a gracious guest. Phil, I want to go to you next. Alan kind of gave you a lead in. I'm saving Regan and Nelson for the cleanup hitters. I hope you don't mind, guys. Phil, you're next.
Absolutely not.
Clean up a little bit, Phil. We got the storms heading in. We have got a bunch of nervous people. What are the thoughts you want to leave them with?
Well, here's what I'll leave them with is know your team. Know who you're going to call, not after the storm, but who you're going to call before the storm or before the event. And know your asset, know your building. Get to know your building. That's important. I mean, what type of envelope do you have? If it does get damaged, who am I going to call? And then know your surroundings.
Oh,
it's real important to have that knowledge. Knowledge is priceless when it comes to that. David Patel and Associates, we are a company with subject matter experts that when the damage does happen, and it's going to happen, we have envelope specialists. We have waterproofing experts. We have structural experts. But get to know your building, get to know your team, your immediate team on, how to prepare for this. And I'll leave you with this is, everything that Alan has said and Regan has said is spot on. You got to know what you're covered for. Not knowing your contract or what you're dealing with, and I deal with contracts every day. I don't have a car insurance guy look at a construction contract. They're different. There's a lot of ins and outs in these contracts, but get to know your contract and what you're covered for, because that's the first step. And the second one is, like I said, know your building, know your team, know your surroundings and what you're headed for. So I'll leave you with that, Jim. I really appreciate the opportunity. Regan and Alan, I look forward to building on the relationships and protecting our residents.
Phil,
Thank you, Phil.
Thank you, Phil. Thank you for everything. I want to now go to Nelson, former FBI agent and veteran of security guards and trainer of them too. Nelson, what do people need to have from your group as a takeaway today?
I think besides having all the necessary equipment, food, and everything else that is normally a requirement before a hurricane arrives, is to make sure that you are knowledgeable of the fact that somebody needs to check on you. I think that's the most important thing from the humanistic side of it. It's amazing to be able to have a security officer come to check on you, or somebody from a security company like Kent that can, as soon as possible, get over and check on you, not only to see what your needs may be after the hurricane has gone by, but keeping in mind that you may not be able to go anywhere. You may have to be stuck in your room or in the apartment until you are safe to be able to move about. But with someone to come in and help you, that's something that you will never forget, you will never regret in any way.
Wow, that is tremendous. That is like great. I'm writing that down. I'm calling my mom on that one. Regan, you're going to really have to go hard to beat Nelson. That was tremendous. A write down answer. Well, that was great.
Well, it doesn't get better than Nelson. Nelson is probably one of the most sincere gentlemen that I have ever met. So it's a pleasure to work with him every day. Jim, again, same. Thank you for allowing us to be on your show. Just a couple points, just to reiterate, understanding that your normal hurricane plan of yours past needs to be derived for COVID and the civil unrest. The insurance aspect that Alan has spoken so eloquently about. Just to echo what Alan has said, I think all of us on this show are in this we're in this to make money as a business, but I think we're also in this to help people. And knowing you, Jim, and Alan, and getting to know you, Phil, I think we know that the way we speak on this show is the way we speak to potential clients. There's no, excuse my language, BS. It's the real deal. Having a DSA agreement in place, disaster service agreement, whether it's with your security company, as Alan said, with a tree removal company, wherever it is, have it prior. Make sure that the client understands the expectations of what the providers are going to do. Have that in place in writing prior. That will help the rest of the building staff know what is covered and what is not covered. Be honest. Understand that in some cases, if it's there's a 35 mile per hour sustained wind, evacuation may have to occur. If it doesn't, make sure that you have a place in your building that is safe for the security to stay. Make sure, as Nelson said, they have the supplies, they have PPE, make sure they have enough mat, make sure they have the fuel, make sure they have water. Just to end off, I think that, speaking to and listening to everyone on this show, I think that as a team, if we're brought in, we can bring sincere value, and don't let any other providers tell you otherwise. If you're being told something else by your insurance agent, speak to us. Let us guide you, and we can provide you with references to other clients. So, Jim, thank you again for having us on.
Listen, thank you for all of you being on. Alan said it. I've worked real hard to vet professionals. Alan and I talked about this kind of thing about a year ago when we first said, Jim, you'll find it difficult to find somebody that's a true forensic builder. You'll find it very difficult to find somebody who truly cares about securing and creating a good situation and living environment. And he said, Jim, you know all about this because you were subjected to it after Hurricane Irma. And so, yes, I went out and I looked for people that could create a circumstance where I would feel comfortable referring my friends. And that's what it is. It's referring my friends. And Alan said it was my reputation on the line. It is. And so I want to thank you for all coming together and providing this type of service. And that's what it is. It's a service and sincerity and transparency and giving a value proposition that really makes sense. Alan is as the lead dog with the knowing what to do from a legal standpoint in the environment. Phil from the physical standpoint, documentation critical. Before everything comes, I go through my house and not only take videos. Videos aren't really good. You need to take actual still photos because it's tough to parse the video sometimes. Nelson, I'll never forget seeing the guy out front of my building, starting it, looking at like this Lord of the Flies. And Regan, it's all about planning and having a plan in place. You guys are tremendous. We're going to do this. This is going to be regular because it's not just hurricanes, it's structural stuff and everything else. You guys are the dream team, and thank you for letting me.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you for having us.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Phil, be well. I know you've got to go run your teams on the storm. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have safe travels. I'll look forward to catching up with you when you slow down after these hurricanes come through. God bless you all.
Jim,
You are friends.
Jim, real quickly, what's the name for everybody of Phil and Regan's company, and maybe a telephone number?
Oh my gosh, you're so right. Blah. Well played, Alan. Phil, you're up first. How do people get a hold of you?
All right, David Patillo and Associates, 678-584-9940. David Patillo and Associates.
Give the number again, Phil, because we got some guys that aren't so bright sometimes that listen but still need your help.
All right, 678-584-9940.
Okay, Nelson, if I got to get my security guards trained?
Okay, they can call me directly to 305-926-0248.
Again, give it one more time, Nelson.
305-926-0248.
And now my co-host, Regan, tell us all about your task force one more time and how people find you.
Thanks, Jim. Yeah, I can be reached on my personal cell phone at 305-495-7409. Again, that's 305-495-7409. And I'm in communication with Nelson and the rest of the task force, as well as Kent Services. The Kent Task Force put in place to assist communities sincerely with the reopening and closing of their amenities, as well as advanced security evaluation, and most recently, the addition of hurricane preparation and planning from a disaster service recovery perspective.
Thank you. And since you reminded me, I'll let you go last, Alan. How do people get a hold of super lawyer Alan Garfinkel?
Look, the most important folks that are on the show are obviously folks that are going to put a roof back on your head, that gives you the security of not getting wet and making sure your property is covered. And so that's why I would strongly recommend you following up with Phil and his team. You know, there are contractors or folks that have, Home Depot trucks, but there are very, very few that are specialized in actually forensic, construction and disaster recovery. And the second person you'll probably likely call is, again, to secure the envelope, secure the building is Kent Security. So people find me. I don't advertise. I just, what I do is I struggle to do what you do all the time, Jim, and that's vet people, including like that woman that you recommended that was on the phone, Rebecca. She's fantastic in terms of materials. And so it really takes time, when you've been working so hard for 30 or 40 years, it takes, 30 years to build a reputation, 20 minutes to ruin it. And these guys have managed to maintain the reputation for decades. So thank you very, very much for allowing me the honor of addressing, speaking with this esteemed panel. So thank you very, very much for your time, Jim. Thank you.
Wow. You're welcome, Alan. I want to give a shout out to our first responders. I want to remind everybody we're South Florida's longest running business talk show. I want to thank the sponsors, Creco AI, Carlson Integrated. Today we've got Phil and Regan are sponsors as well. The Bergstrom Center for Real Estate Studies, the Turkel Brands, Lerner and Rowe. And of course, I want to thank you, our listeners. Please go to our Facebook page and like our show and tell your friends. Join our community on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, everywhere. Twitter, give us feedback and comments. Tell us when you want to hear more from our friends. Oh, you've already got your face mask on, Regan. Look at you.
I'm on the move.
Today's show, it's going to be up on freedombusiness.com. And this is Jim Freed for Freed on Business. Look for us next week, next Wednesday at noon. We're going to do our tech show. Why? Because I just love doing this. Remember, the person that wants to do something finds a way, the other finds an excuse. Now go out there and make it happen just like these folks do. Regan Mendoza, did I say it right, I hope? It's yours. Take us home.